Hi, everyone. We're going to get started with today's webinar in just a minute. A number of people are joining right now.
We are also very excited to have this opportunity to speak with you, and definitely want to put out there with these trying times, just safety and health and wellness, and of course strength and comfort during this time, and really wanted to thank you for joining our call today.
We'll get started soon. Today's webinar is about how BlueHat Cyber uses SanerNow to automate patch management. And as we all know, it's very difficult to keep systems patched. It's a major pain. Most endpoints are not properly patched, and organizations continue to be at risk. So today we're going to talk about cyber hygiene best practices and how these risks can be managed. But first, let's start with a few introductions. I'm Greg Pottebaum. I work for SecPod as VP of Strategic Alliances. I've enjoyed nearly 8 years now working with the SecPod team. And Chandra, if you would introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, thank you once again for joining this webinar. My name is Chandra. I'm the founder and CEO of SecPod Technologies.
And Doug.
Good morning, folks. My name is Douglas Smith, and I am with BlueHat Cyber. I'm excited to have this opportunity to speak with you today and kind of show you about taking some of the struggle out of your vulnerability and patch management and how we do it with automation. Greg, that's back to you.
Okay, let's look at today's agenda. We're going to present how to automate patch management, solve a whole bunch of problems, how to efficiently reduce the cyber attack surface of your business, and how BlueHat Cyber uses SanerNow to automate patch management. And then once we get through that, we're going to open up to questions and answers. So I think it's good. Let's go ahead and get started. Chandra, could you tell us about cyber hygiene and why it's important?
Certainly, Greg. Thanks. All right, so COVID-19 is on us, and world over, I think all of us are locked down. More than increased connectivity, I think it has been the changed scenario with people connecting from different locations to the office networks and trying to work as usual. And that has tremendously transformed the way we look at cybersecurity and threats in general. And a lot of attacks are occurring on a day-on-day basis. And with increased technology and people connecting from different locations and different types of devices becoming part of the network, it's becoming extremely challenging to secure the perimeter. Increasingly, different types of organization, whether it is a small and medium business or a large enterprise working in different verticals, all of them are under attack. So there is no distinction made by the attackers as far as the targets are concerned. So we are hearing about a large number of attacks on a day-to-day basis, and at least every 14 seconds there is a new high-profile attack that we hear about. And the problem, the fundamental or the core problem is that the IT security administrators who are responsible for managing the cybersecurity posture of the organization are unaware of the risks that are there, and there are no risk mitigation practices implemented appropriately. So that is the biggest challenge today. And for attackers, it's just about identifying one loophole or one vulnerability in order to take down the entire network, while as someone responsible for defending the network. We have a job of identifying all possible vulnerabilities and loopholes and threats that are potential threats that can damage our organization's ability to do business as usual. So in the industry, the response to this problem has been somewhat mediocre. So if you look at the vulnerabilities that are getting published on a day-to-day basis into the NIST CVE database, on an average, you see at least 40 to 60 new vulnerabilities are being added daily. And so that is a huge number. So on year, we see somewhere close to about 20,000 vulnerabilities reported into the NIST database. And these are known vulnerabilities, and there are a good percentage of these vulnerabilities that are never published in the form of a CVE, but they continue to be there and attack with zero-day vulnerabilities, for example, or a menace to most of the organization. So as these vulnerabilities are being attacked on a regular basis, if you analyze these attacks, invariably we realize that there are some vulnerabilities that are either open, been there for a while, not patched, and 90% of the scenario, it is either making use of a vulnerability that is there in operating systems or third-party applications that we use, or misconfigurations of some sort where the system's security posture is not hardened. So typically what organizations do is run a periodic audit exercise of some sort to identify the risks. And these periodic audit exercises tend to be somewhere once in a month or a quarter or a biannual basis. So the irony here is that while there are 40 to 60 new vulnerabilities being added into the database on a daily basis, our response to that is that we are performing a audit-driven risk assessment exercise. So invariably, each of these risk assessment exercises end up throwing a large number of vulnerabilities that, as a security administrators, have to go through each of them and identify what is the remediation or what is my response for that particular vulnerability. And that is a daunting task. And IT administrators invariably end up consuming a lot of time, anywhere between 1 month to 5 months, to roll out a fix for the vulnerability that was identified. So on one hand, we are doing a periodic audit-driven risk assessment exercise. On the other hand, there's also a delay because of all the complexities and manual interventions that are required to respond to that particular risk or a potential threat. So this is a huge opportunity for attackers to exploit these vulnerabilities and loopholes or misconfigurations that are present in the IT system. And so that is not going to work. And adding to this, product complexities and multiple point products. So having to perform a risk assessment using one system and then mitigation system is totally different. So there is no interconnectivity between these two systems, although meant for serving a cybersecurity need, and consume a lot of network resources, bandwidth, etc., system resources, bothering the productivity of the organization. So all of these complexities tend to generally push us humans into postponing the act of remediation. And this is the current scenario today. So there are vulnerabilities that are being published. So over this weekend, there was a vulnerability on SaltStack's Salt product and remote code execution vulnerability and also information disclosure. And a week before, there were high critical vulnerabilities by Adobe and Oracle, for example, a week before that. So these high critical vulnerabilities continue to be made published, and there are these vendors who go about releasing a security update on a regular basis. So as organization, as a security administrator who's responsible for managing the cybersecurity posture of the organization, we will have to have or be in tune with these new vulnerabilities that are being published, and then also figure out what is my response mechanism. And all of these manual operations tend to add to the delay in responding to a particular risk that is widely known. And attackers also get to know at the same time, and they would have prepared an exploit in almost no time and then go about hunting all the organizations that have these vulnerabilities that are widely open. So go ahead and launch those attacks with the exploits that are prepared to take advantage of these vulnerabilities. And exploit kits are continuously publishing a potential exploit that can be transformed into a malware or a ransomware of some sort. So invariably, attackers are using either an email that enticing user to open a particular attachment and performing certain actions that are undesirable. And that has become the de facto or the mode of operation for most of the attack attempts. So there are so many security solutions, but the businesses continue to be at risk in spite of those investments. So multiple point products, security has been, multiple point products have been bought and deployed within the organization. A team has been put for managing this particular product, and but somehow the security effectiveness of the organizations are not really realized. Adding to that, multiple complexities continue to be there, like the heterogeneous environment with multiple flavors of operating system, multiple versions of applications, etc. BYOD is one issue. Roaming users connecting from home or work from home is another scenario. And the product complexity, having to manage multiple point products for vulnerability. And if you look at the cybersecurity category of products, there are at least 60 to 70 different category of products one has to learn about and deploy those, which is extremely an impossible task almost. So let's look at how our partner BlueHat Cyber is handling these challenges that I talked about using our SanerNow as a platform. Over to you, Doug.
All right. Thank you so much, Chandra. Really appreciate this.
Thank you. So let me make you the presenter, Doug.
Oh, okay. Now, do you folks see the slide deck there?
Yep. We see an email.
Yeah, we see your desktop.
Okay.
Wrong window.
Yeah. My apologies, gentlemen. Okay, there we go. My apologies for that, folks. But I will just go ahead and get right on to it and really kind of talk about, the top part that we are dealing with. And that has to do with really reducing what that cyber attack service is. Now, let's talk about the governance. We're talking about risk. We're talking about compliance. We're talking about PCI and HIPAA and other compliance needs that are really made a lot easier with deploying BlueHat Cyber and SanerNow. It's just more of a check. It's more than just a check mark. This is an invaluable service that is there to just ease and maintain the reduce for your compliance objectives, while at the same time having that automation that works within the timelines of your needs and having the intelligence in order to provide that kind of a service where we provide our customers as a requirement. Again, this is something with SanerNow is a requirement with any of our customers that we onboard at BlueHat Cyber because of the power and the capabilities that it provides us. And being informed. When anything happens, you yourself have a staff that were probably up at 3 o'clock in the morning or on Christmas Day and having to deal and manage with these different kind of vulnerabilities and the criticality of these vulnerabilities. Well, that's where you will be informed and it will be automatically or with automation taken care of for you because, the overall goal of this is maintaining the security to your infrastructure. Now, imagine also trying to invest in a security operations center. By investing in that security operations center, that in itself is a large cost, but having experts already on staff at BlueHat Cyber with the utilization of SanerNow, these are things that we can bring ease to your organization. And when you're looking at having a daunting task of a security operations center, as well as the patch management and also the vulnerabilities, this is an area where we would be able to work within your organization to assist. Now, are there any questions out there? If so,
make the slide a full screen, Doug.
Okay. Say that again.
Can you make it full screen, the slide?
Okay.
And then we're holding questions until the end.
Until the end, all right.
Of course, people can go ahead and submit questions now if they would like. We might be able to take some in process.
Okay.
And I don't see anything right here at the moment.
All right. Folks, I apologize. So you guys still can't see my full screen?
No.
Okay, can you see my full screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. So for the next slide that we're going to have is also, like I said, staying informed. The next in play is for managing these assets and the IT hygiene. This is something that Chandra went over earlier. And if you really look in the past, one of the major complexities within our organizations were not really combining your asset management with a vulnerability or automated patching solution. And of course, with SanerNow, that patching management solution and vulnerability capability also extends out to those that for the bring your own device or the Internet of Things and all company endpoints. And all assets, as you know, are a target for those threat actors to exploit at any given time. As we know, they don't sleep. Well, neither do we. So we are here to assist you with that. BlueHat Cyber, giving you the opportunity to keeping you secure. We're one of the leading providers within the cloud services. We're also having the capability within 17 years of addressing the complete cybersecurity lifecycle. We can enable and fit to your business needs in order to have these experts that are already on staff and available for assisting you. Imagine trying to hire 6 experts within your organization and what the cost of that would be to your bottom line. With our experience and elite team, we can work with you on your cloud services, backup and disaster recovery services, professional services, and managed security services to also include security and storage and visualization. Sorry, folks. Now, let's also talk about patches. There are multiple patches that are out there. Patch Tuesday is, of course, famous with Microsoft, and having the capability to work within your schedule and maintain your automated patching with multiple vendors. It's not all just about Microsoft. It's not all to do with what they are. This also has to do with the other vendors that are in the world. Knowing what patches or knowing what devices are out there and what's crucial and how to update those patches and keeping in cadence with those vulnerabilities. Why don't we talk about Java and Flash? These are 2 very complicated applications with many versions throughout your organization. BlueHat Cyber and SanerNow can greatly reduce that complexity since we can identify what is on the device and intelligently automate them to be patched. And the other point is that being able to do that and combining it with the other tool sets. For instance, it's not just a patch management capability. One of the strongest points that we really enjoy the utilization of SanerNow is there's other additional benefits. We have an informed vulnerability that we receive via an email. I'll go ahead and the salt stack vulnerability. It alerts you to what the criticality of that is. It also tells you what their mode is or what they're trying to do. So it also informs you with giving you additional information through a CVE link that allows you to have more chance to be informed as to really what is the severity of this. But the other business application of that is that due to what its severity is, it gives us the opportunity to choose through this informed vulnerability capability of should we patch it to patch it, or should we patch it because of the fact this is a critical vulnerability and be able to work within your schedule in order to do it. That is a huge asset when you are working within any organization to know when this is. It justifies the purpose in order to go ahead and perform that patch at any given time. So at that, folks, I will go ahead and hand this back over to Chandra. And thank you, sir.
Thank you, Doug. All right. Thank you. So BlueHat Cyber, as our managed security service partner, uses our SanerNow platform to provide this security services, mainly around ensuring the cyber hygiene of these endpoints are achieved at all times. So moving on, let me give you a very quick overview of our platform and its capability, and then support it with a quick demo. And post that, we can get into a question and answer session as was planned earlier. So SanerNow as a platform is meant for cyber hygiene orchestration and automation. When I say cyber hygiene automation, it is all the activities that one would have to do to eliminate the possibility of attacks. When I say possibility of attacks, it is getting to know what is there within the environment and assessing the risks, whether it is vulnerabilities or misconfigurations of any kind, and then responding to those risks. So large percentage of these attacks can be eliminated if this activity is performed on a day-to-day basis. And then a supporting capability with detection and response, where security administrators could continuously monitor what is going on in these endpoint systems and identify if there are some aberrations or attack attempts of any kind, and responding to those in real time. And also getting to know who is logged in, for example, is a very useful information when you're doing a continuous monitoring activity, and then having the ability to respond to those aberration is also very powerful and useful capability as far as maintaining the hygiene of the organization is concerned. So SanerNow is conceptualized as a platform with multiple apps or applications serving different needs of cybersecurity. So one single console, multiple modules, part of this platform to address different use cases. So we have a vulnerability scanner, runs a day-to-day scanning. Scanning takes about 5 minutes to complete, irrespective of the number of systems that are there within the organization. Within 5 minutes, you have visibility to all the risks that are present. So as soon as the agent is deployed on the endpoints that are being managed and monitored, you have a risk view. So, and when you log into the portal, you get to see the latest vulnerabilities that are discovered for that day. And then we have a patch management solution, gives you kind of an integrated approach to responding to the risks that are identified. So a heterogeneous patching support with Microsoft Windows, different distributions of Linux, and also Mac OS X, apart from the large list of third-party applications that we can help patch and eliminate those vulnerabilities and risks that are identified. Then we have an asset management tool, provides continuous visibility to what is going on these endpoint systems. We also have a compliance management, ensuring continuous adherence to a particular guideline, whether it's PCI or HIPAA or technical standards like NIST 853 or 171, or even CIS controls can be benchmarked and assessed, and deviations can be mitigated to ensure continuous compliance to these standards. And then we have a threat detection or an EDR component to monitor what is going on these enterprise endpoint systems and figure out if there is an indicator of attack or compromise, and respond to those in real time. So these are the different tools that we have, part of the SanerNow application suite. In terms of deployment, we have both SaaS offering as well as an on-premise deployment capability. It's fairly simple and easy to deploy once the anchor server is set up in case of an on-premise deployment, and the agents are pushed out onto these managed endpoints. Within about 5 to 10 minutes, the risk view is presented in the dashboard across all of these endpoint systems. The intuitive console, easy to use, so that's one feedback or kind of a response that we receive invariably from all the users of our SanerNow platform. Pretty easy to onboard, easy to get going and get results in a matter of few minutes. Now, coming back to the patch management use case that we are talking today. So one of the critical need for patching is being aware of what to patch. So being aware of what vulnerabilities are there and responding to those vulnerabilities. So it is an important requirement in my view, to know these are the vulnerabilities that are there, and these are the high priority vulnerabilities that must be fixed today, and these are the potential for exploit. These vulnerabilities have the potential for being exploited in the wild. So here are the criticality score that I would want to assign to this, and then go ahead and roll out the patch. So with an integrated vulnerability knowledge, and then fixing those vulnerabilities with a patch management tool becomes a really powerful way of getting to know the risks on a day-to-day basis, and also mitigating these risks on a day-to-day basis. And patching alone is not the only response to the vulnerabilities that are identified. A vulnerability could be in the operating systems and the applications, for example, where you can go ahead and roll out a patch and the job is done. But there are a good number of vulnerabilities that are where patch is not necessarily a response. So an example could be an outdated protocol. SSH v1 is enabled, or SMB v1 is enabled, which is widely attacked these days. Or an unwanted application is deployed within the environment. Maybe it is outdated, end of life has reached, and vendor is not supporting anymore, but this is somehow stayed back within the organization. Or there could be an adware that is bundled with another genuine software. We don't know. There's no visibility to that. Maybe there are some ActiveX control that are deployed for some reason, and nobody's having a visibility to this particular thing. Or there are certain registry entries where maybe there is a malware entry that run once is being used by the malware to continuously, in spite of being rebooted, continuously launching itself. So there are scenarios where the vulnerabilities could go beyond, the response to a vulnerability could go beyond a mere application of the patch. And it's essential to have the tool sets to be able to respond to these as well. So which is really important, which is going beyond the traditional patching. When I say beyond, doesn't mean that patching is not necessary. And there's a large percentage of the vulnerabilities where patching is the primary response, but there are good number of vulnerabilities where you want to stop a service, you want to uninstall an application, you want to remove certain flash ActiveX control that is there, or you want to edit certain registry entries to clean up the security posture, or there are some unwanted, outdated applications that you want to get rid of. So response to a vulnerability can vary depending on the organization. So you have a patch that you want to install, or all of these activities that I mentioned could be the response to. So a risk mitigation task must go beyond patching alone, and also have these capabilities to be able to respond to these attacks on a day-to-day basis. So with SanerNow, we have multiple tools to serve that purpose. One, identifying the vulnerabilities, and then applying the patches across these heterogeneous environment covering Windows, Linux, and Mac OS X, and a good percentage of third-party applications which are typically found in the enterprise environment. Not only that, but you also get visibility to what is going on these endpoint systems, real-time continuous monitoring capabilities to know you have other scenarios which could expose to the outside environment for attackers to exploit those weaknesses. So with endpoint management tool, there are a variety of responses that you can roll out going beyond the patching alone. So let me do a very quick demo of the use cases that I mentioned, from vulnerability management to patching, and then going beyond patching. I'm using a demo account on our SaaS deployment. So this is one of the sites where we have 8 endpoint systems, 5 are Windows, 1 is Linux, and 2 Mac OS X operating system. So we have 6 different tools coming together on a single console. We have endpoint management, asset management, vulnerability management, patch, compliance, and EDR. Once you deploy the agent on the endpoint system, within about 5 to 10 minutes, you have this view presented with all the risks identified. So when you go into the vulnerability management dashboard, you will see a complete view of all the risks that are identified within that environment. So you see there are 4,600 vulnerabilities identified in those 8 systems. And in typical deployments, we see hundreds of thousands of vulnerabilities being discovered as part of the initial deployment cycle itself. So these vulnerabilities are categorized based on their severity, and if there are certain exploits that are making use of these vulnerability, maybe a ransomware, maybe an exploit kit, or a malware itself. So we have those details available as well. So essentially trying to help prioritize those vulnerabilities that must be immediately patched. So this view is presented on a day-to-day basis as part of the scan that it runs, the agents run every day. Once you have the risk view, you can go ahead and respond to those vulnerabilities that are identified with patches. So here are all the devices, total number of patches that are required, and how many vulnerabilities each of these patches are going to fix. So you get a complete list of these vulnerabilities that are identified in the environment in this system, and rolling out these many patches will fix those. So if you look at a Windows system, for example, these are the third-party applications that must be patched. So you get a bird's eye view across all the enterprise endpoints. What is the total number of vulnerability, and how you can actually plan a patch rolling out activity. And then there are additional information that a dashboard should have: what is installed, what jobs are currently running, etc. In order to roll out these patches, you can go to missing patch, select the patch that you want to apply, and then create a job. As part of the job creation, you can specify a schedule when it should be run. Do you want to reboot it? Do you want to test it before deploying it into a production environment, for example? Do you want to attach some additional scripts that you want to execute before applying the patch? So all of these are controls that are available to customize the remediation job. And then once the job is created, you can go ahead and monitor and track what is going on with these patching jobs that we created. So this particular system requires a reboot, and if you want to reboot it, you go ahead and schedule the reboot job as well. Not only the patches alone, but we can also fix these misconfigurations, which are the other examples that I mentioned, a weak protocol like SMB-V1 or SSH-V1, or it could be a security strength of the crypto algorithm that is being used, or password policy or account logout policy. So all of those can be assessed and mitigated as well. And we also track firmware, can roll back a patch that may be causing some problem within the environment. And another interesting feature we have with patch management is ability to automate the patching activity to a scheduled activity. So you can select a list of applications that you want to automatically patch and create an automation rule, and scheduling it to run on a daily, monthly, or a weekly basis, whatever is convenient. And so the patching jobs will be done in an automated fashion. So this is this is how you go ahead and respond with a patch to the vulnerability that is identified. Let's go ahead and look at a few other type of risks that can be seen in the environment. So if you look at asset management, we track these outdated applications separately. So this is highlighting Adobe Reader and Microsoft.NET to be an outdated platform. You can also identify if there are some license violations on different types of devices and software applications that are installed. And going further into the endpoint management, you can get a real-time visibility to the endpoint activities. Let's say I want to track all the cron jobs that are running on a particular Linux system, so you get instant visibility with those. And SE Linux is enabled or not. What are the services that are running? You have the antivirus product installed, up to date and running. You want to track the system health and figure out if there are some high utilization of CPU. And you can also use certain tools that we have to build instant visibility checks. So this will give you additional view into the vulnerabilities that are not more from the security posture point of view. Are there guest accounts enabled? Are there inactive users that are not deleted who has logged in recently? Are there some commands that are executed by any particular program, for example? So all of these can be tracked. And once you have the visibility, it's also about acting upon those the issues that you see. So you want to block access to a particular application or device, or do you want to uninstall a software which is already installed? I was taking an example of an end-of-life software or an ActiveX control which is installed. So we have capability to remove those already installed applications. So do you want to make changes to the registry, kill or block access to a process, network settings related change, system related changes? You can also use it for quarantining files and even running certain scripts that you want to upload and execute those scripts across the enterprise endpoint systems. So this way, your security administrators will have control over what must be there and what shouldn't be there, or there's some behavioral changes that must be that are observed in the endpoint systems that you want to act upon. So a variety of controls are available for administrators to build that way. The other tool that I want to touch upon is the compliance or configuration hardening tool. So this will assess about 500 to 600 different checks that can be performed on every endpoint system. So password policy, account lockers policy, outdated protocol. You can create benchmarks for example, CIS or NIST CSF framework, or even PCI HIPAA or NIST 853. So once you create a benchmark based on these guidelines, the agent would go ahead and run a scan, identify deviations like this. And if there are deviations, we also present the mitigations that are available. So you can go ahead and fix all of these issues and bring the device to 100% compliant status or posture. And what is more important is also this process can be an automated process where you create a benchmark and then you ensure that the devices are always adhering to a particular security benchmark at all time. So effectively, you get a view to the risks and potential threats that are there in these enterprise endpoint systems, and you also get console to act upon those by rolling out security patches and also making certain other changes to eliminate these risks on a day-to-day basis as against audit-driven quarterly rollout of the patches. And that is the primary problem that we want to solve and ensure continuous compliance is achieved on these endpoint systems at all times. Before an attacker could exploit these weaknesses, we would have eliminated those weaknesses. So that is the idea of SanerNow as a platform. That I would conclude. Greg, over to you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Chandra. It's obvious it's very easy to use the system and kind of hits at the heart of the business case, knowing vulnerabilities and being able to take action and mitigate those risks through patching, having that integrated process to simplify it. And Doug, do you have any other comments on the patching process or what you do with your services? Might be muted.
Thank you very much for that, Greg. I do have a couple here that, I kind of touched on the course, of the presentation. one thing that you've definitely been able to see here as it's not just a single tool. What you have is a toolkit for security, and you have a full set of utilities, not only just for your patching and your security needs, but to be informed of those needs, be informed of those vulnerabilities and what those threat actors are going to do with those vulnerabilities, even to such a point where you know where that point of vulnerability is within that announcement. And I think that's the strongest part, being able to have that kind of information and knowing, do we need to patch this? Is this severe enough? And do we need to do something like, as opposed to on Patch Tuesday, folks would love to have, as vulnerabilities come about, we'll use Microsoft Patch Tuesday, during the course of the week, but that can only be daunting. But this will allow you that opportunity to make that decision to move forward with that patch. So you're informed and you have a response and you know exactly what needs to be done. And the other benefit is having that complete toolkit like that, and who doesn't want it? Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think, on the patching, it's very pragmatic and logical. It's you can patch by groups of devices, so multiple applications at one time. And you can also automate patches. So things you're comfortable to have automatically patched whenever there's a critical update, you can have that handled, browsers, Adobe products, and other things. So really trying to make that whole process as effective and efficient as possible. And as I think Chandra had mentioned, when we go into accounts, frequently there's thousands of vulnerabilities, sometimes on each endpoint. Sometimes there's millions of vulnerabilities across an organization. So it's a daunting task. And with the different tools here, we can automate a good portion of that and get those counts down to something that's manageable and essentially reduce that risk footprint across the organization tremendously. But anyway, let's get into the questions. We have a question and answer session here, and I do see various questions that have come up. I could pick and choose on those, or Chandra, you could take a pass at some of them also.
Yes, Greg, I can do that. A good number of questions, so let me go over one by one and then respond to those. Question from Amol, will this recording be available? Yes, so we will be sharing the recording with you post this session. Another question from Amol, does it also control Mac and Linux patch management as well? That is true, Amol. So apart from the Microsoft Windows platform, we also have coverage for Mac systems and also major distributions of Linux that are there. So we do have a complete patch management solution supporting these heterogeneous operating system and applications. Another question from Amol, what about the rollback of patches? We also have capability to roll back the patches if it is causing a problem in the environment. So once the patch is installed, you will be able to remove those patches as well. Question from Usman, does it patch server OS? Yes, servers are also supported apart from desktops and laptop. What strategy you decide for patching servers? So if it is a production server, we have a capability within a workflow kind of a capability within our patch management tool that will allow you to create a test environment that is identical to the production environment and roll out the patches within that environment, make sure everything is working, and post that you can approve the patches into the production environment. But you can also create an auto workflow that will allow you to define, saying after 7 days, you go ahead and apply the patch after rolling out on the test bed. Question from Yogendra, is the support team is in India? Yes, we do have a support team, 24/5 support team in India. Do we get support in Indian language? Okay, our support team is in India, and I'm sure India has 13 languages, so may not be comfortable with all languages, but I'm pretty sure we'll be able to cover most of them. How far your patches will help our company? Question from Mulakala. I think our sales and marketing team probably can get in touch with you and figure out how we can help with your company's patch management requirement. Question from Amol. If SanerNow server is on cloud, then how can it discover the endpoints? So if you're going with a SaaS-based or a cloud-deployed option, so the endpoint deployment is a separate activity that must be done. So there are multiple ways these agents can be deployed, either through an Active Directory GPO policy, or we also provide tools that can help you discover your environment and roll out the SanerNow agent. Once the agent is deployed, it will connect to the cloud environment, and then you have real-time visibility then onwards. Question from Usman, how would you do for malware infection? So SanerNow as a platform is meant for eliminating the attack surface. So we don't look at or go on hunting the malware. So that's not the purpose. So either AV or a next generation AV products would do that. But with our EDR tool, if there are intelligence information that is available about a particular malware, you can build a query to search across all the endpoint systems and figure out if there are certain infections of any kind, indicators of attack or indicators of compromise, and respond to those as well in real time. So that capability is there, complementing the efforts of anti-malware product. Question from Manish, how patch management is done over a low bandwidth network? So we do have multiple options to handle the low bandwidth scenarios. If there are branch offices with lesser bandwidth availability, then there are options to set up a cache repository to eliminate the need for downloading the patches over the internet. So it would be a one-time download and then distribution of those patches to every other endpoint which is present in that particular subnet or in that network. So there are other controls also available, which we could probably discuss it separately. Question from Arun, will this have the capability to manage third-party applications management? Yes, Arun. So we do have a large list of third-party applications that we support. We publish that information in our SanerNow portal, listing out all the third-party applications that we cover as of now, and that is a growing list. So depending on what we see in our customer environment, we consider including the coverage for those as well. Can we check the security posture of the device prior to connecting to the corporate network? Yes, it is possible, although there is a prerequisite, which is to roll out our agent. So once the agent is deployed, before allowing it to be connected into the primary router network, you'll be able to assess it. And if there are some checklists that you want to define to allow it into the primary network, you can put a policy to become part of the primary network. Question from Usman, you have vulnerability scanner, patch management, asset management, as well as EDR. Why are you missing malware protection? As I said earlier, our effort is to complement the anti-malware products that are out there. So they do a good job of detecting a malware and helping you to quarantine those malware. And that is post an incident. So our area of focus is prior to an incident, what all can be done to eliminate the attack surface in the first place, to prevent the malware infection. So that's the direction that SanerNow as a platform, or the value that SanerNow as a platform brings to the organization as against post-incident detection and quarantine. Is this question from Arun? Is this appliance-based model or only available at cloud? So we do have both the options, a SaaS option as well as on-premise option. It is not an appliance, but you could consider it as a virtual appliance in case of non-premise deployment. This question from Amol, does it support roaming users? Additional configuration is required. Yes, we do support roaming users, people who are connecting from work from home type of a scenario as well. The only connectivity requirement would be needed for reaching to the server. So irrespective of where they are, as long as the connectivity is there for our server, they'll be covered under that, and all the policies and the configurations that you have created for the enterprise users will also be applicable for the roaming user. In fact, you can create different profiles segregating the roaming users versus people who are working from home, for example. Question from Usman, how would you compare your product with Qualys? It's a good question. So Qualys has been primarily positioned as a risk assessment exercise to perform an auditing activity on a regular basis, identifying the vulnerabilities. And recently, Qualys has also introduced a preliminary version of the patch management tool that is released along with Qualys vulnerability scanner. So our product has been there for a while with these two capabilities integrated, pretty much tested, great coverage in terms of operating systems and third-party applications. And so in terms of detection capabilities also, we've been tested out quite well. And I would like to say that we are better, but subject to your testing. So anybody wants to try out, we have a free trial available on our portal, SanerNow.com, to identify these vulnerabilities and mitigate those vulnerabilities on a few systems. Question from Usman, what is the size of your agent software? It's about 12 MB installer size. And once it is installed or deployed, it would take about 200 MB of disk space and very minimal RAM and CPU consumption. CPU can also be throttled to restricted to not use, let's say, more than 10%. So that kind of controls are available. Question from Usman, how is your pricing model? So the pricing is based on the number of endpoints that are managed using our platform. I think we can talk separately about, we do have certain volume-based discounts and all that. So we need to understand what is your scope and then talk to you separately on that. So those were the questions so far. I hope I have addressed all of them to your satisfaction. If not, please feel free to pose those questions once again.
Thank you, Chandra. And coincidentally, we are coming right up to the end of the hour. I hope this has been useful for everybody to find out more about how BlueHat automates patch management, and also the tools that are provided by SanerNow. You can contact SecPod or you can contact BlueHat Cyber. And as Chandra mentioned, we do have a free trial on the SanerNow.com website for SanerNow, so that you can try out the product yourself for 30 days on up to 10 endpoints. You can also contact us or BlueHat for a more specific demo of the capabilities, if you like. That can be scheduled. And with that, unless Chandra, you or Doug have something else, I think we are about ready to wrap up today. We all certainly appreciate everybody's attendance and joining the webinar. Anything else, Chandra or Doug?
No, sir, I am good.
One last question from Manish. Do you want to handle that, Greg?
Let's see, some kind of training.
I can read it out.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Either way, yeah, we certainly provide training. We find that some people can do the SanerNow startup and just learn how to use it themselves. But normally what we do is kind of schedule an hour jumpstart session to get people going with the product. That works pretty effectively. And then we provide additional training and support as may be required as people start their deployments and so forth. Training hasn't been much of a problem with this product because it's pretty obvious on how to use it. It's friendly. Other questions? Okay. Well, I again thank everybody for attending today, and I think we can wrap up now. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Wonderful having you all on this webinar.